I grew up in a time where it was that safety, security, get a job, save, spend 35 years in that job until you retire and collect Social Security. So it's been interesting for me to work through all of that. I spent a lot of time, money, and resources on coaching, on cognitive behavioral therapy, really trying to reverse engineer this thing, like understand where this stuff came from so that I understand that well enough and can make conscious decisions of how I'm going to marginalize and ideally eliminate some of the self-doubt and unjustified self-judgment and unworthiness, to free me up to move forward confidently.
Hey everybody, my name is Tom LaFaso. This is the Follow the Winners podcast. Today I'm with a special guest, Brett Knopf. He was introduced to me recently through a friend of mine, through another friend of mine. And since we've spoken, we've had some great conversations. So I'm really excited to introduce him today to get into the podcast. We're going to talk about success, mindset behind it, kind of business attributes, things that, maybe some people may know, may not know. So I have Brett with me on Zoom today. Brett, I'm going to kind of give it to you right here. Brett, how are you?
Doing great, Tom. Appreciate you having me on here. And I would like to validate the fact that we've had some great conversations already. And I'm excited to be here for sure.
Cool. Yeah. We're really excited to have you here. This is definitely something exciting to kind of get you on here. A buddy of mine, introduced you to me in a sense, and we're all excited to kind of talk about success, the mindset behind it, follow the winners. The person who introduced me to you was very adamant about talking about you as a winner. So I was excited to have you on here. We had a great conversation prior to this, and we're able to speak about, both sides, where we kind of come from in a sense. And I think from my understanding, definitely some similarities and more that I would like to even know about you. So the first thing I just want to get into is who you are, what do you do, that kind of thing.
All right. By the way, have you ever seen the movie Anger Management?
No.
Oh God, there's a question on there.
Maybe I have.
Jack Nicholson is a therapist, and he's asking Adam Sandler, "Who are you?" And he's just needling him on it. He's like, "I'm a pet supervisor." Blah blah blah. It's like, no, who are you? And anytime that question comes up, it just makes me think of it. But quick little tangent there. Who am I? So my name is Brett Knopf. I'm a performance coach and business strategist. I spent over 2 decades in leadership and sales management roles across multiple verticals, ranging from startups to billion-dollar annual revenue type of companies. I currently work to develop elite leaders and sales teams by helping them focus not only on their professional skill development, but leading with their personal development. I found that when people are able to lead themselves and focus on themselves from the inside out, it translates into professional success as well as life success. So that's the lens through which I do the majority of my work.
Cool. I guess kind of just like diving in a little bit deeper on that. How long have you been doing this kind of work for? And, just prior to any of this, what kind of work were you doing? Just to like kind of give us a full understanding of who you are.
Sure. So, when I graduated college, I went to school at Binghamton University in upstate New York. And I started off as a restaurant manager at Tavern on the Green, which at the time was the highest grossing restaurant in the country. So what was interesting about that was I had little to no restaurant experience. My father had owned a party rental business and had done a lot of work with the organization. So my senior year in college, I got a job as a host there, and they saw my interpersonal skills. And in fairness, they saw a cheap labor opportunity. And when I graduated, they invited me back to be a manager there. So it was cool in the sense that I had to understand servant leadership really early. And fortunately, I'd seen my father doing that within his own organization because it was a unionized restaurant, 150 tenured employees, 15, 20, 25 years in the industry. I'm just this punk kid coming in, like I said, with little to no experience. So I had to showcase really quickly that I was willing to get in the trenches with them. I would never ask them to do anything that I wasn't willing to do myself. And you had to show that through action. So despite working 90 to 100 hours a week and making $23,000, it was just a tremendous launching pad for the rest of my career, both from the work ethic standpoint as well as the leadership standpoint. So where these guys were skeptical with me coming in, I left to a standing ovation a year and a half later. So that was cool. From there, I went on to start one of the country's first search engine optimization firms down in South Florida, right when Google was coming to prominence. We were one of their first AdWords partners, and that should have been my retirement. Those companies went on to be, multi-hundred-million, billion-dollar companies across the globe, and we were on the phone pitching, saying, "Hey, this is Brett with Google." And that was completely kosher. We also were able to potentially have gotten in on their IPO. Regrettably, we ran into youth, friendship, business issues where, people saw that we were spending lavishly on office space and expanding way too rapidly and doing a lot of silly stuff that wasn't where we should have been going necessarily within the business. So after 2 years and a lot of success and a lot of heartache, I ended up getting bought out and coming back up north where I fell into, or I didn't fall into it. I made the determination I wanted to align what I was doing professionally with something that I cared about personally. And that was a real light bulb moment for me. So I got into health and wellness, working with Equinox as a manager over there, ultimately becoming a regional manager. Involved in a lot of the strategic planning there, really coaching the trainers and the leadership teams on how to build and scale a business while, like I said earlier, focusing on the personal development aspect of things. Fitness obviously lends itself to fundamental wellness and fundamental focus on personal growth. So a lot of fun, a lot of success in that. And pandemic hits, fitness gets vilified. I'm out of my safe, fun, secure job. And I just started putting the pieces together and making the determination that what I really love about that is the coaching, the development, the scaling businesses, the ability to really help people set goals and create the strategic plan so that they're driving intentionally day after day after day. They're creating those days that get them to where they're aiming for in as linear and efficient a time frame as possible. So that's how Knopf Solutions was born. And apologies for the long-winded answer, but
That's a great answer.
frames up the background and how I've gotten to where I am right now.
No, I think that was perfect. Super interesting too. I don't know if you told me about that Google stuff the last time we were chatting. That's really cool. I've done now a bunch of Google AdWords, advertisements, and do it still with some of my clients. And to probably be one of the first people in there, I'm sure was crazy, because it's there's even still a lot to learn now. So, new things coming out. I can't imagine what it was like just in the beginning of that. So it's pretty cool. I guess kind of going into even just like piggybacking off all of that. So all of these successes and failures and so on, all these things that you've gone through, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, to me, success is consistent personal and professional progress on a daily basis that leads to the intermediate and long-term goals that I've set or other people have set. I look at things through the lens of you versus you, me versus me. And I talk about that a lot because there's this tendency to gauge success in a comparative nature to the external folks out there. And while there's certainly some merit to that. I define success as, did I measurably get better personally and professionally today versus yesterday? And I do that by documenting what I'm doing, what the results were, why, certain things may have gotten in the way, so that I can have that success metric. And it's not just vague and conceptual. It's actually tangible. I'd say beyond that, I define success as being able to calmly and effectively navigate life's challenges, and also helping other people do the same. To me, success is not just about me. It's what kind of impact can I make in other people's lives, in organizations. I do look external for that. And, while I don't need it, getting the objective, unsolicited, positive feedback from other people really fills my cup. And it's something that I just love to do. It's been part and parcel of how I've operated for my entire career, certainly, if not my entire life.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that your definition of success is not only your definition of success, but it's also your passion in a sense, which is kind of cool how you've been able to like blend those two together. That's probably more of a different answer than most people, because people can define success, but they're not always able to like blend their successful life or the things that they define success with what they do on a daily basis, which is kind of what you do. So I guess to go into that, tell me about your business. This is like the two-part question that I have too. So it's like, tell me about your business, and then it's, why do you do it? I guess you kind of answered it in a sense. So yeah, I guess, let me know a little bit about more of why success is that and your business,
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned with Equinox in particular, I came to that realization that, life is short. I want to be, we spend so much time at work. I want to be doing something that I actually love to do, that is, not just helping myself financially or just helping myself mentally, but something that makes that fundamental impact in other people's lives. I took inventory of what is important to me, and it was so crystal clear that was the case. So, I love seeing other people succeed, and it's always been a primary driver for me. So over 2 decades of, like I said, leadership and sales management roles prior to segueing into my own coaching and consulting and speaking business, I just look to create wins all around scenarios. I wrote a book that's going to be published on February 27th. It's called Everyday People, Extraordinary Sales Success, Sales Secrets from Those Who Won Financial Freedom and Their Life Back. And I wrote that book with the intention of giving people a playbook to sell with integrity, sell with value, do things that are going to create those wins all around, so that they're not beholden to companies and leaders that, pardon my French, don't give a shit about them on a personal level. So that's a big part of my overall business philosophy, and a lot of why I do what I do. In my current role, I work primarily with CEOs, business leaders, and entrepreneurs to help them create those definitive personal and professional goals, and like I mentioned, use their time wisely and strategically day after day to drive linearly towards that achievement. And it's, to me, a really healthy blend of philosophy and actionable strategy that demands self-accountability, daily measurement of progress, and transparency with yourself and others.
Wow. That's a great answer. And I like that combination right at the end that you just threw in there, philosophy and action. Because that's the biggest thing. And it's funny you said, I just got a fortune cookie the other day that said something about taking action in your life. You can set goals. It was something about like setting goals and having to take action. And a lot of people make goals, but they just never take that action. And everything you're saying makes perfect sense. Having the correct mindset in order to grow a business, or not even just grow a business, but grow in life, caring about your personal self. And then if you care about yourself, your own well-being, it kind of just like pushes out to everybody else around you. You know, now you start caring even more about the people around you. You want to help the people around you even more. I love all of these things. And everything that you've said today so far and the last conversation that we've had, I'm like right there with you on all of these topics and ideas. I want to be able to help people. I want, it's a huge reason why I'm doing this podcast is to try and reach younger individuals out there. I mean, anybody really, it doesn't have to even be younger people, but people are just lost and don't know exactly where to go, how to go about it. And the first place to start is like right here on the inside. It's just that philosophy mindset. Like, get quiet with yourself, meditate, think about what you really, really want, not what the outside is telling you, not what your parents are telling you, not what friends are telling you. Like, what does, as an individual, what do you want? Okay, once you figure that out, how do we get there? Okay, well, what's one step that we can take to get there today? And taking that action. And like you said, that blend of the two of them, it's crazy once you kind of get your brain in the right mindset and then understand, okay, there's actions like that have to be taken. Let's send an email today. Let's try and call this person. Let's go out to the streets and walk around and try and find people who are interested. Let's ask every person who walks out of the grocery store if they would buy my product. Like, I don't know, but there's literally so many different ways that you could try and do something to like frame yourself in the right response. So that's cool. And I like your business overall. I really like to hear about people that can, help other businesses grow. It's similar to what I like to do because I just frame it in marketing, like I want to help businesses grow just on a marketing level. Cause for me, it's where I understand how to help them grow. It's like, okay, well, if we can figure out, everything as far as marketing goes, then, the sky's the limits. So I guess
You made a good point. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you made such a great point with all this. It's and this was a really turning point for my own life and career. I've got all these books back here, and I've always been a reader, but I was accumulating knowledge and not intentionally applying it. I heard a phrase a few years back: knowledge isn't power, applied knowledge is power. And that, again, another light bulb moment. I think I was unconsciously doing some things, but that active intention makes such a difference in yielding the results that you're looking for. And independently of that, it's freestyle. You're basically just letting your subconscious hardwiring dictate your behaviors. While you think you're in control, most of us aren't in control. We're kind of floating through the day to day. So, one of the biggest things that I do is I started journaling. And what I was saying with taking inventory of what I'm doing, what the results were, what could I have done differently? Why did certain things get in the way? Allows me and allows the people that I work with to course correct in as close to real time as possible with the actions, rather than, we set New Year's resolutions and we don't look at them until, maybe December 31st the next year. And hey, I didn't, cool, not cool. No, it's the daily accounting of these things and the actions, so you can accumulate the data points to understand what is working and what's not working and make those adjustments. That is, the not so secret sauce.
Yeah. Nah, you're right on point. A lot of the motivational speakers I've listened to, they talk about journaling and how important it is. I actually have a reminder on my phone to journal every morning. It's just I literally haven't done it in like 2 months probably. But
Hard.
it is. It's really hard. It's really hard to wake up in the morning, but you would be surprised. It's cool that I have them, and I could go back and read what those days were like and those mornings, let's say. And it is cool to kind of see where your mindset is. And I think you are right, 100%. I should probably start doing it more, and everybody should realistically, is to keep yourself accountable on a daily basis. That's one of the biggest things for me. Was a huge change, was just being able to like trust myself on a daily basis. Like, it's like, okay, I'm going to tell myself I'm going to do this tomorrow, and actually following through on that thing, especially when it comes to like working out or not eating garbage. You're like, I'm not eating fast food the rest of the week. And then it's like 2 days later, you're like, oh, well, Taco Bell looks pretty good. It's like, no, you're not eating fast food the rest of the week. You told yourself you're going to do that. you're going to stay true to it, you know, or it's like, you know, I want to work out or I need to apply to a certain amount of jobs to try and change my life. It's like, okay, if you tell yourself you're going to do something, you know, don't make it an unrealistic goal, make it something that's obtainable. So that's awesome. It really is. Great answers overall. The next thing here is about winning. So have you ever won in life before at anything at all? It literally could be anything.
Yeah. So what you just mentioned that you kind of teed it up, which is great here. My self-esteem and self-confidence skyrocketed because, like everyone else, a lot of insecurities, worthiness, et cetera. I know we'll probably get into some more of that as we go along here. It all skyrocketed when I became impeccable to my word to myself. And I saw that if I said I was going to do something and I did it, that, we're so great at self-deception historically. And I say that historically with myself. And I think that goes for the majority of us, that when you look in the mirror, you have to know that you did what you said you were going to do. You set a standard for yourself and you fucking executed. And doing that frees you up to get out there and give that confidence and assertiveness and everything that you have to offer to other people in your world, friends, family, constituents, employees, whatever the case may be. So, I look at that as a big win when I realized that once I was able to stay disciplined, because it takes discipline to do the things. I take a cold shower as soon as I wake up every morning. I hate it. It's the worst. But I set the standard and I maintain the standard. And that's a win. And so I have a mantra that I start off every day with. I meditate as soon as I wake up. And then I have, several mantras, but one of them is win the day. And win the day gets documented whether I did or didn't do what I said I was going to do. So just as a quick aside, the other mantras that I have that, really keep me focused and intentional day to day are treat everyone you come in contact with as though they're the most important person in the world. Because I want to look at every interaction as being able to provide value in some way, shape, or form to the people I'm interacting with, as well as what can go right. I asked myself at the beginning of the day, what can go right? And, win the day, what can go right? Treat everyone as the most important person in the world. I aim to win every single day. And I largely, whether I won on a cumulative effort or cumulative perspective, or I won by, just staying disciplined and executing on the things I said I was going to do, or helping someone else do what they are looking to do, I find that I leave most days feeling good about what I did and having those wins. Because even if I don't per se win the day, I have those failures. I know how cliche it is, but there's lessons. There's lessons in all of it. And one of the things I journal about after I go through my productive actions for the day is my biggest lesson of the day, my biggest win of the day, and my biggest focus for tomorrow. So every single day there's opportunities to to evaluate those things.
That is the best answer I think we've gotten so far on the podcast as far as winning, because everybody else has just given me like a scenario in their life, but that is probably the best answer. And I think I would have to agree with you on that. If I were to say my best winning scenario in life, that would be it, being able to trust myself. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because without that, I would not be where I am right now. Literally, I would not be where I am. I would be about 60 pounds fatter than I am and just miserable, and nobody wants.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. What it is, I'll say what the big win with all of that is having that become habitual, where I do that, I journal, I do that every single day at this point. We're on, it was last year I started January 1, so 365 consecutive days. And wherever we are in February. So, almost 400 consecutive days of that. And the results in my life and my overall happiness and well-being physically and mentally, it's increased exponentially. And I was already having fun. I've had plenty of hardships, but I've always tried to look at things through that lens of gratitude and, enjoying the short time we have here. But, I'll tell you, Tom, that trusting yourself and staying impeccable to your word is a game changer.
Yeah, I can't agree with you anymore, because I really hope that everybody that listens to my podcast listens to just that aspect of it. Because I think that's everybody's downfall who doesn't find some level of success in their life, is that they can always look back on letting themselves down, probably the people around them, significant amount of times, but most likely it has to do with letting themselves down continuously, as opposed to, building that positivity and building that strength up, day by day by day. Like you said, I mean, you already were somewhere where you felt great. You added a small little detail onto your day that probably takes you 10 minutes every day or something minute like that, and it makes an even massive, even bigger impact on your life. So, and to even tell me about it, obviously it's making a huge impact on your life. So, I guess this kind of even segues into this next question, which is core values or even cultural beliefs. So, for me growing up, there was some people in my life that maybe told me, you could do whatever you want and so on. And then there were some people who might have just like put me in a cage, let's say, and were like, you should become a cop or a fireman, or, go become a lawyer and like try and do something, get a career, stay down this path, do a 9 to 5, get in some kind of safe environment, whatever, retire at 65 and have a nice day. So I've been trying to like push all these things out of my life, like, okay, some of it's good, like the love and the hope and faith and things like that. It's like, please, I want to keep all of that near and dear to my heart. Like every single person that I love family wise that has taught me those things, like I'd never want to get rid of that. But the other insecurities and stuff, like, please, you guys can keep that. I don't want it. So that's just for me realistically. But have you had anything that you've had to like remove as you've gotten, older in your career?
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, basically everything you just said, I can echo. Love my parents, tremendous people. Fear-based, fear over faith, very conservative. And they gave me so much opportunity, so much love, but they also passed that type of stuff on to me. And just overall, environmentally, that was more so what I grew up with. I'm 41 years old, so I came, I grew up in a time where it was that safety, security, get a job, save, spend 35 years in that job until you retire and collect Social Security. So it's been interesting for me to work through all of that. I spent a lot of time, money, and resources on coaching, on cognitive behavioral therapy, really trying to reverse engineer this thing, like understand where this stuff came from so that I understand that well enough and can make conscious decisions of how I'm going to marginalize and ideally eliminate some of the self-doubt and unjustified self-judgment and unworthiness, to free me up to move forward confidently. And I'm happy to say that I've come a long way, but newsflash for me and for everyone else, this is daily work for the rest of our lives if it's really going to have the cumulative effect that we want it to have. And that's cool. The process to me is arguably the best part of all of this. The daily wins, like I said, is the best part of all of this because it's so micro and tangible to look at and see. And over time they'll lead to the bigger pops, the bigger wins, as a byproduct of just engaging in that process of self-discovery and self-development and execution on things that are going to feed into whatever it is that we're looking to accomplish. So I'll say my core values at this point are respect everyone, pass judgment on no one because everyone's going through it in some way, shape, or form. Certainly scalable as far as the magnitude of challenges that people have to overcome, but everyone's got challenges. So no judgment and add value in every interaction. When I look at things that way, I found that the world, the universe, the people around me respond accordingly, and it's a really great thing. I'm grateful. I enjoy life. I don't take anything for granted.
Yeah, I feel like those core beliefs that you have to kind of build yourself to, and it seems like obviously you've been able to push a lot of those things that weren't beneficial to you out of the way. But it's like the complete opposite of like the negative mindset in a sense, where you're so like caught up in yourself and you're so selfish and scared and depressed, let's say, like all these things that like on the opposite end, when you are feeling better, like you are willing to help people in a sense. But when you feel terrible about yourselves, like you don't really want to help everybody because everything is, oh, the world's crashing down, like bills are so expensive and life is hard and my job sucks and like it's just me being in a negative sense. But when you like flip the script and you're just like me on a positive sense, it's so much easier to like reach a hand out and help somebody and be like, hey, I here's some advice. Maybe it'll help you, maybe it doesn't. All of those small things that kind of go a really long way for the people around you. And without even realizing it, because sometimes you could even think back to someone in your life, like a family friend or even a family member or just an old friend or a teacher, let's say, and they said like one thing to you that really stuck out to you. But if you were to go to that person and tell them that one thing stuck out to them, they'd be like, what are you talking about? I don't even remember saying that to you, and that's crazy because and you don't know when those times could happen. They could be anytime. It could just be this conversation right here. And someone hears that one thing and they're just like, wow, that's amazing. That's going to stick with me the rest of my life. So I think that's great that you could kind of use, your core beliefs to help yourself, but also help the people around you. You kind of answered this in a sense, this next one, which is about spirituality. So I'd like to ask everybody like where they line as far as spirituality goes. Now, I'm not really caring of what religion you are, but more along the lines like I know you said you meditate, so that's that to me is almost a form of spirituality, like getting close to yourself. So meditating, even going to church or some kind of religious service. Do you do any of these things to like help you push forward in your career?
Yeah, I'm not much in the way of formalized religion per se, but I'm very spiritual. I definitely believe that the universe is what is. I'm trying to think about how to phrase this. I believe in the quantum field. I believe in the universe. I believe that we're all matter, or we're all energy, and that by being both receivers and transmitters of that energy, when we put out that intentionality, when we've got clear cut vision of what we want to do, when we meditate and we visualize these things, and we write them down daily and think about them repetitively, the likelihood of them happening is exponentially increased. So, very much I believe in that spirituality. And, I heard something from one of the personal development gurus that I follow and listen to and subscribe to, a gentleman by the name of Ed Milet. And this was another
He's my favorite.
He's just tremendous. That's cool to hear. Not surprising. This is what framed up a lot of how I operate at this point in my life. He said that he believes that when we die, God, whomever, introduces us to the most optimized version of ourselves, the person that they created us in their image to be. And heaven is meeting that person and that person looking at you and saying, congratulations, partner, you caught me. Hell would be you meet that person and you're complete strangers. And to me, that's such a crazy way of thinking about things. I say crazy in a good sense, because it drives me. It drives me to just be that better version of myself day after day after day. Look at this as a lifelong process. Look at it as, the opportunity of me versus me. And when I'm doing that and I'm documenting it, I know that I'm putting forth the requisite time, effort, and energy to ideally catch that most optimized version of myself.
Yeah, for sure. I like how you just mentioned Ed Mylett. He's my favorite, like hands down favorite motivational speaker right now, and I came across him by accident probably about 5 or 6 years ago, just on the podcast app on my phone. He like just popped up and it was like some motivational thing. And I listened to it, and like fast forward now, however many years later, I'm like, this guy like came into my life for a reason, because he has such good information and things to say. And what you just said is one of the greatest things that he definitely has to say, which is, meeting that person at the end. Who are you? Who are you going to be? Are you going to be happy with who you are at the end? Or are you going to meet that person and they're going to be like, yeah, man, you messed up big time, and that's terrifying to me. I don't want to be like that. It's really easy to kind of just fall into the comforts of reality and just go day by day, kick the can down the road, and then all of a sudden you could be 90 years old and being like, oh man, I wasted my entire life. And that's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But even to what you said about, you didn't say the word, but you basically explained it, which is manifestation. um I love that, and I think everybody has to. Like, if you're not thinking about every day what you want, where you're going, what the goal is, how your home is going to look in the future, and like, your family, just like literally down to the details. If you can, not necessarily planning, but almost just being hopeful and having that faith every single day, that manifestation process, it's unlike anything I've ever done in my life. Because I can picture myself just really, really, really wanting something, and genuinely wanting something, if it wasn't a relationship, or if it wasn't a new client, or if it wasn't even just a materialistic item that I was dying for. One way or the other, if you think about it enough and you really try and figure it out, you're going to make it happen. And I truly believe that has to do with, putting that thought out there every day.
You're right. I'm so happy to hear that this is the way that you think as well. It's not surprising by any means, but I've got enough tangible evidence of that working now, because when I started writing these things down, 2.5 years ago, over these 2.5 years, in these big, hairy, audacious goals, the BHAGs, as I think Tony Robbins refers to them as, they've happened. Not all of them are there yet, but I had no idea how to buy a house. I made the determination, I want to get a house by X date. Boom, happens, because I was focused on it and I went about finding the resources to make it happen. And because I was so intentional in putting that out there, unforeseen things came into my line of sight to make that happen. Same thing with starting the business. Same thing with some of the strategic partnerships that I've created in business. It's extraordinary to see how that unfolds when you're just meditating, visualizing, writing it day after day after day after day. That repetition just makes it clear to the universe what your aiming point is, so that it becomes more, I wouldn't say more, I'd say it's a balance of pursuit and attraction that ends up bringing those things together in as short a time frame as is humanly possible. I believe.
Yeah. Wouldn't you find that those things happening to you as far as like it's not a surprise, right? Like when you manifest something and then the positive things start to happen to you, it's almost like you're excited about it and you're happy about it, but you're not like blown away by it as a surprise. You're not like, "Oh my God, this is a miracle. I can't believe this," you know? It's like you knew, not that you knew it was going to happen. It's just that you could like, I don't know. I really don't know how to explain that because that's how I feel. If something were to happen that I've manifested, or I'm really thinking about, and something positive moves me in the direction that I want to go, you know, something unseen, like you just said, I feel like I have tons of excitement, but I'm not surprised. I'm not like, oh man, this is, you know, this is crazy.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, it is. It's almost, I'm not gonna say matter of fact necessarily, but there's certainly excitement. It's like, all right, cool, fantastic. This was what I believed was going to happen, and it happened. So bravo. That's fantastic. But I want to add a little bit of caution to this because I think that word manifest, and I purposely didn't use it because I think it's gotten commercialized and people are using that manipulatively to have others invest in their coaching or courses, whatever. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You can wish for these things. That's not what's going to get it done. It's the action day after day after day that is going to have them ultimately be actualized. You can't just wish. And even if you're writing it down and thinking about it without the action piece of the puzzle. So there's hard work and there's discipline and there's effort every single day that makes that manifestation ultimately come to fruition.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I tell anybody start with one thing, you know, if you can just start with one thing, do your, you know, manifestation, let's say on at nighttime or in the morning, and throughout the day, do your one actionable move, you know, and a month later, it could be two actionable moves, and 2 months later, you know, three. And now all of a sudden you're, you know, have 4 hours worth of work to do for yourself or whatever it is. Like, progression, definitely. But I think that's a very valid point because I don't want people to get confused in hearing that, you know, I can sit here and just meditate all day long and the best things in life will come to me because, you know, it's not, you know, you're just going to meditate all day long. That's all that's going to happen. Which, hey, it's probably not a bad thing. You know, one of my clients actually I work with is a psychic, and I want to get him on the podcast just because he's probably the only person I've ever met that has meditated like a ridiculous amount of time and actually has done that, you know, really inner talking in a sense. Because most people I know that don't have the time to do this. This is like this guy's actual job in a sense, is to like get quiet and, you know, be a psychic. So that's why to me it's definitely important, and that's why I want to talk to him about it too, because who knows what somebody that spends, you know, 40 years doing something like that and has been able to like, or even like a monk, let's say, you know, somebody who's like literally that's what they do for all their time. I can't imagine some of the things that they've been able to kind of accomplish inside their head spiritually. um that being said, on the opposite end of it, on the you know, the other end of positivity, we have fear. We touched on it a little bit, so you kind of spoke about it in the sense of like how it's been pushed on you, and I said the same thing, like from family members and so on. But your own personal fears that come to you on, you know, either a daily basis or even throughout your career or even personal life, how do you go about those fears? Like, what have been some tricks maybe that you've been able to push them to motivate you or get them out of your head, whatever that is?
Sure. Yeah. So there's two things. One we already touched on is that thought of meeting that person at the end of our days and being complete strangers. I try to be motivated more by faith than by fear, but if there's any fear that motivates me, that's the one. So I look at that as a real driver in making sure that I'm winning the day as frequently as humanly possible. The other is I read a book pretty early on in my personal development journey, right around the time I was working with Imagine Networks, the SEO company that we created. So that was 2005, and it was called "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway" by Susan Jeffers, and that was a huge realization for me because my biggest takeaway from that was literally every single person walking the face of the earth is fearful. You know, there's no getting around that. And the fear that you have is not unique to you. Somewhere, someone is feeling that, has felt that, will feel it. So I think we have a tendency to be under the impression that whatever's going on with us is, isolated to us, and that's not the case. You start looking around you and you find that, oh wow, there's a lot of other people at varying, levels of success, however you choose to gauge success, that are just as fearful. What differentiates them from, anyone else, or, if you want to start, creating those different tiers per se, is they felt the fear and they did it anyway because they recognize that most of it is fear of failure, and failure is informative. So I think I read a statistic: 8 out of 10 millionaires were financially bankrupt at one point in their life. There you go, 80%. So it wasn't that they didn't have fear. They felt the fear. They did it anyway. They accumulated the data. They took their lumps, and now they've worked their way through it because they understand what not to do, and that informs the decision making on what to do moving forward. And I'm just going to take this opportunity because this is important. One of my biggest cheat codes is find the people that are excelling in the areas that you personally want to excel in, and consume as much of their information as possible, whether it's books, podcasts, YouTube videos, direct mentorship, group coaching, courses, doesn't matter. Because, I'll use myself as this example. I paid the dummy tax by falling on my face plenty of times. A big part of my business model is, let me help you shortcut the process and go directly through that by explaining the fear, explaining how I felt, how I overcame that. And so you don't have to take as dramatic of lumps, ideally, as I or others have had to take.
Yeah. And per se the name, follow the winners, that's pretty much it's pretty much the same thing. Because that's what my mom and my grandma told me always, when you go somewhere and you see somebody and they look like they're doing well, go follow them, do what they're doing over there, see what they're up to, pick a few things out of there and take what they're doing. And that is huge. I've been able to consume just tons of podcasts and YouTube videos, books, really audiobooks. I don't like to read really. So it's just tons and tons of this. And the amount of information that is out there completely free that you don't have to pay for is absurd. And these guys give away their secrets all day long. Like, I hear stuff on a weekly podcast. I was just listening to Ed Mylett last week, and he said something that like blew my mind. I can't even really remember what exactly what he said, but I was just like, it's such a small detail. And for him, it's a small detail because it was a massive detail for him at one point in his life, but now it's a small detail because he understands it and it's just an everyday process. And he can just say these things like it's nothing. And I'm like, wait, oh, wow, that's huge. If I implement that into my life, like, I like the one thing that Ed Mylett says that I genuinely try and live my life like this is living my life in 3 days. So having from 6 a.m. to 12 o'clock, from 12 o'clock to 6 p.m., and then 6 p.m. till midnight. I don't necessarily know if my days are like as structured as that, let's say, but I try and, be like, let's say like 7 a.m. till like noon time, try and get as whatever I can done as far as work goes. Understand that maybe I'll have like a little bit of lunchtime and then do the same thing for the next like 6 hours. And then between my 6 and my midnight, it's like, okay, do I want to work right now, or do I want to relax and like spend some time with my family or my friends or whatever that is? And trying to decide, okay, if I structure this, I'm now amplifying my day where it's insane and making sure that within that time period I can get enough work done that is a day's worth of work. Which is 100% possible. 6 hours is a long time, so you can get a lot of stuff done in 6 hours.
Oh yeah.
So
Great,
cool.
great reference. I completely agree.
Yeah.
That goes, you talked about the measurement as well. We already mentioned the New Year's resolutions versus, maybe taking monthly inventory versus taking weekly inventory versus taking daily inventory. He goes to the level of measuring it on an hourly basis, just taking a pause. Am I on track towards my goals? What am I doing well? What can I do getting into my next activity that will set me up for success? And measuring and evaluating those things on an hourly basis, is something that I'm really aiming towards getting to, because I consider that the platinum standard for operating intentionally and strategically.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you have to definitely be at a pretty high level career wise, even to like structurally frame a day like that. Like I work for so many people in a sense, so to be like, oh yeah, my, can't do this for you this time because I have it, structured this way. But at the same time, to be able to like consciously just tell myself, like, okay, you have these 3 days. It really, I don't know, it really allows me to get a lot more done when I look at it like that. And I can kind of structure it like, all right, I'm only going to work on this in the morning. Then I have the afternoon where I can do this. And then at nighttime, I'll get this done in a sense. And then, I have a few extra hours where I can spend some time for myself and relax. I don't know. It's so simple, but it just kind of framing the day that way. It's been really cool. And the same, the word compounding, if you just keep compounding that over and over and over, where it leads is absolutely insane. All right, so I just have a few other questions here for you. We're pretty much at the end. I just want to know what kind of goals you have for your company moving forward. If there's anything like new and exciting that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'll say just overarching what my goal is, and this came from my business coach, going back to practicing what you preach. I invest a lot into my own personal and business development. Um, he says help a lot of people, make a lot of money, have a lot of fun. And when I have that as the primary way that I'm looking about doing business, it gives me the opportunity to know that I'll get paid commensurate with the value that I provide to my clients and customers. I don't want any more. I don't want any less. I network a ton. So if I'm not the answer, I always want to be able to concierge that solution for people by saying, hey, go speak to Tom, go speak to Jamie, go speak to someone else that may be a better fit. So those things are really important to me. As far as other goals for my business, I told you I've got the book coming out on February 27th. I'm hoping that ends up being very impactful for people, and it gives me the opportunity to just get out there and spread the information, spread the good cheer, just give people the philosophical and strategic ways of operating that are going to best help them maximize their own potential. And I look at, I've got my consulting, I've got a couple of bigger clients on that end, but I really want to surround that with more digital education courses, speaking on stages, immersive workshops in companies, the one-to-many, where I can have that multiplier effect. And I'm humble to a fault. I told you, just the self-confidence and things have historically been challenging for me. And, it's taken me a long time to get to this point, to look at all the objective feedback that I've gotten and know that I do make that impact, and I have made that impact, and I'll continue to make that impact. So, ultimately I want to be on those bigger stages with the Ed Milet's, with the John Maxwell's, Mel Robbins, just these folks that are giving people those actionable strategies to help better not just themselves, but the people in their lives, whether they're business leaders and have teams working with them, whether they're moms and dads and just being better parents. I want to help as many people as I possibly can, and make that massive impact in the world. And I'm like I said, humble enough to be told, "Hey, Baldy, you're full of crap. Back off," and that's cool. Ideally, I'd like some feedback as to why you feel that way, but I think it's important to be able to take that um, ideally constructive feedback and not take things personally, and just do what we can to make the world a better place, in whatever capacity that I or others are capable of doing.
Absolutely. Hey, I think those are great goals. So two things. First is, where are you selling the book? Are you gonna put it on Amazon?
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be for sale on Kindle, and then hard copy as well, both on Amazon. I'm self-publishing. The hope is, again, this is impactful, and next time around, there's more name recognition where the publishing houses want to get involved. But yeah, for now, it's Amazon.
Yeah, hey, I mean that's where you got to start, and hand out as many books as you can to people, and do everything that you can. I totally understand that, and even the other thing that you were saying, it kind of just made me think of like waking people up from like this matrix, quote unquote. That to me is hugely important and something I would love to like leave as a legacy in my life, is being able to like come up with a code in order to crack this mentality that just doesn't allow you to live your life to the fullest. Let's just put it like that. And talking, being up there with like Ed Milet and, like you said, Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, any of those people, like, how cool would that be, right? How cool would it be to be able to help these people on this mass scale, to be able to put a video online and get 1 million hits to it within, 2 or 3 days, like, and knowing that, because I know I've gotten so much from these people. I know that I've obtained some crazy things just from listening and feeling their inspiration through, a microphone or through my screen here. So I truly respect that. I truly do, because not everybody feels that way, and not many people are willing to put themselves in front of a group of people and be vulnerable and let them know, these are the things I've gone through, and these are the things that have worked for me, haven't worked for me, with the intent of helping them, not in the intent of like, oh, I'm gonna become mega rich because of this. It's like, no, I don't need that. Because you could easily find 100 different career paths that would make you money and success in some level of a sense, but it's not what you want. That's not what makes Brett happy, which is cool. That's what those are your goals. So I love that. The last Yeah, no, the last thing is just, where can people find you if they wanted to get in touch with you or they wanted to work with you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram at Knopf Knows, LinkedIn, Brett Knopf. My website is Knopf Knows Solutions, and books coming out, and all that contact info will be in there. Ideally, it's beneficial. I'm starting it out on Kindle at 99 cents, so making it nice and cost effective for anyone that wants to get involved. But I'm here to help. I love to give, and I receive as a byproduct of that giving. And I just appreciate the forum here, Tom, to speak about these things, and whatever I can do to help you and your people, I'm always happy to.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is awesome. I've already explained to you why I do this podcast, and it's just to try and help grow this, like I just said, try and find a way to cancel this matrix that stops people from living their life. It's not only a goal of mine, it's a passion of mine. And meeting you has been so in line with everything that I'm doing. It's like, it's really, really cool. Because I've never actually met somebody that I can like say these things and they're like, yeah. And then I get the exact same thoughts that are coming out of my head basically right back to me. So it's so cool to be able to find that. And only on like podcasts, I think this is going to be episode like 6 or 7 right now. So it's like this is awesome that I've already kind of found this on such an early podcast, realistically. And I hope to take this thing to the moon, just keep on grinding and find people, talk with people, network with people, see what they, why they're doing this. Why do you wake up in the morning? What makes you excited? All those questions that you don't have the opportunity to ask somebody in just a regular conversation. I don't know, to me, it's so cool to be able to find out these things. And it's surprising sometimes. It really is. It's surprising. So I really, truly thank you. It's, this is awesome. We'll put all your information in the bottom below so people can find you. And, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Same here, Tom. And you will have a ton of success given this type of format. That, like I said, these are tremendous questions, and it's impactful what you're doing here. So looking forward to next year or two when you're in those upper percentiles of downloaded podcasts.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have you on again. Cool.